was ah, la, ya. Ah, la, ya. And I'm going to tell you about these things a little bit later on too. But that was just to show you how what happens when these letters, which used to have the big pot bellies, what happens whenever they're going to be in like this. Now this will be ah, lay, he. For instance, alehi. We're going to talk about it later. Don't worry about it. I'm just showing you what happens when they're in a word and they connect to each other. So now we got a, ta, tha, and lam. Guess what? We got another one. And it's not exactly like this one. This is a rounded hook coming down. This is more squared off at the bottom, and it gets something like this. Gets a little like that, like Superman. You put a little S in there. And guess what it is? This is a K sound, like the letter K in English. Say K. Now say calf. Let me hear you. Calf. Calf. Not like the calf of your leg. This is just K-A-F. Calf. Calf. Got it? All right, so write these down. Take a minute or two. Then we'll give you some time at the end of this segment. You can go back over all of this. And while you're doing that, I'm going to put some more up here and talk about the next series. Well, we're back. Hope you enjoyed that little clip. It certainly gave us something to think about when we talk about science and religion. And now, well, you were watching the clip. My good friend and main host of our show here with us is Imam Muhtar Sabri. He's back with us now, and I share with you that we would just talk to them about the idea of proof or science and how it relates to religion, and how Muslims talk about proving there's God through scientific evidences. One of the things that you and I have talked about many times, we have a special on that, the program we did, remember, about the unique Quran.
Yes.
I think we made up some DVDs and you took some different places.
We did that and posted it on YouTube Islam, as a matter of fact.
Yeah?
Yes. It was one of our first productions.
Ha ha ha. There's another chance to promote another website. YouTube Islam. YouTubeislam.com. And like all of our websites, we have another one called Islam Always.
That's right.
And remember what we used to say about it? It's always open 24 hours a day and always plenty of free parking. But YouTube Islam has a lot of great programs over there, and you can join and upload your own programs. And we're trying to encourage folks to do that as well. Have you joined yet?
Yes, I have.
Have you uploaded any programs?
I have not uploaded any programs.
You've got to upload some of your programs.
Inshallah.
Take a picture of some of those kids and put them up there.
We'll do that.
Have any of your children started memorizing the Quran?
Oh, yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
How are they doing with it?
They're doing very well.
Have you thought about videotaping the kiddos?
I've thought about it, but we haven't really gotten to that point yet where they're comfortable.
They got to get comfortable with that.
Yes.
Who has memorized the most Quran?
Layla, my 17-year-old, of course. She's memorized the most. But the little ones, Faiza, she's 6, and she's memorizing quite a bit. They all get in because they're enrolled in the Muslim school in Colombia.
Yeah.
The 6th through 8th grade are working on Juz Amma.
Well, how high up does the school go there in Colombia?
Only to the 8th grade.
8th grade?
Yes.
8th grade. That's be how old? 14?
Yeah, 14.
13, 14, 15-year-olds, like
yes.
that?
That's correct.
Are they planning on going up into the high school at 9, 10, 11?
We're hoping that the school will, but our resources are very limited. The staffing is very limited. So we're looking at various options, homeschooling, perhaps even you're looking at relocating to other areas where there are higher level grade schools.
I think a lot of us are in that condition today. A lot of us find ourselves in that boat, wondering, where we should go, how we should deal with our children, if we should put them in public school or other parochial schools. I know some of our brothers have put their children in Catholic schools or Lutheran schools. And in my own case, when my kids were young, I was a Protestant Christian, but I still put, even though we were in the Church of Christ, or Disciples of Christ actually, we put our children in the Lutheran school because they had the best school. So it's important, to consider that the education is an important thing, but at the same time, keeping their faith is also very important. And in secular schools, often you don't have that.
That's very true.
We've been talking about science. We've been talking about religion. And I think it's appropriate that we mention education as well, because a lot of times the curriculum that's being presented is very biased toward trying to promote this idea of Darwinism and evolution of species to other species. Well, actually, we have some real good stuff about that. I was thinking, too, about the Harun Yahya work that's been done. Are you familiar with Harun Yahya?
Yes. He's a very, very popular writer and has had a prolific impact on the Muslim world, in particular with his literature.
Well, actually, when I was in Turkey, I had a chance to go there. I actually went to Turkey.
You were in Turkey?
I was in Turkey. And we went to Istanbul, and we went to Ankara. We went to the place where by the way, the books that are written are not everything by Harun Yahya. He has a group, an actual small army of PhDs who are writing these great works and putting all this stuff together, and then he checks it over. He's a highly intelligent person. This man is just very astute in his background and his efforts and his sacrifices to get this stuff out there, and it's always high quality. And we have some of it on our YouTube Islam, or a person can go straight to their websites at harunyahya.com as well. There are some things that I don't agree with, but then at the same time I have to tell you that probably we won't find anybody you're going to totally agree with about every single thing, but the mainstream things that he talks about when it comes to science and God, I think is relevant for all faiths to look at what he has and consider it, because I think there's a lot there. I enjoy it.
I have a question. For a young growing Muslim family today with school-age children, what should they look for in a good Muslim school?
I'm going to tell you what happened to me one time. It's kind of related. One of our brothers came over from a Muslim country, well, an Arab country. Let's call it an Arab country. And he was so happy the day he met me. He said, I'm meeting you today. It's nice to meet you. He said, man, a very exciting thing is happening in our family today. I said, what is that? He said, I put my son in American public school. And I said, why don't you put him in the toilet? He said, what? I said, why don't you put him in the toilet? He said, no, you don't understand. I put my son in American public school. I said, I understand. I'll tell you in Arabic, hammam. Why don't you put him in the toilet? He said, why? I said, at least then you could wash it off. Because things that you put your children in some of these public schools is really bad. He didn't like that. And so he didn't want to talk to me for a while. But we became friends later. And years passed, and we didn't see each other anymore. He moved, and I moved. And then by chance, we ran into each other one time. And he said, I need to talk to you. Well, we set up an appointment. I went to talk to him. I had a friend with me, and I told my friend the same story I just told you. So we sat down with him, and while we were sitting there, he said, do you remember what you said to me the first day we met? I said, I remember real well. Do you? He said, oh, yeah. And then he recounted the story just as I had told the person. And he said that I said, you should have put your child in the toilet because at least you can wash it off. He said, well, I want to tell you you're wrong. And I was kind of surprised. And I said, well, I've been wrong before. So, I'm sorry. He said, no. He said, you should have told me that it was 10 times worse to put him in the school than the toilet because you could wash it off, because my son has turned out to be this, this, and this, and he was going on, and he was crying and upset. But, alhamdulillah, we were able to, over a period of time, contact the son. The son had gone off, and some things had happened. but the family was able to patch things up together. But one of the biggest problems he had was he was trying to set the mentality of his Arab culture back home on a boy that was actually growing up over here in public school, and it just doesn't work, because the child is going to be one way at the school, and then he's going to be another way at home. Then he's got like this transition movement on the bus or wherever when he kind of switches out his thinking or his clothes or whatever, you know what I'm saying? So if you're going to put your children in a public school, you need to be prepared, and you really should go and sit with them. You should go in there if the teachers would let you. I don't know if they allow that anymore, but we used to do that years ago, back in the 60s, 70s. We used to go sit with the kids in the school. And when my wife worked in the library, be a volunteer, you know, and watch what they do and how they behave, what the other children are saying, so you get a feel of what's going on. Your child comes home, he's influenced very heavily by what he sees during the day. So he comes home and says things, does things according to what he saw all day long. So when you put them in that environment, and then they come home, and now you've got this problem. Whoa, where did you get those? How did you? Oh. And the child's looking at you. It's like, everybody there said it, you know. So then the child goes back and tells them, well, my parents didn't like it. Oh, your parents are old-fashioned and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, it just... So I think you're right in especially in the beginning years, to have the children in the Muslim schools. And the same I would recommend for all people of faith, that if your children are in a secular environment, you've got to expect that they're going to come back with that kind of mentality. And if you want them to have the faith that you have, they need to grow up in it. You see, our prophet, Muhammad, peace be upon him, said that every child is already born in a state of perfect faith. But then it's the parents that will raise them up to become some other faith. So or no faith. They could be fire worshipers. They could be nothing worshipers, you know. And it's going to be based in part, and a large part of it, by the way they're raised up, by the parents and the environment that they're in. And this is true psychologically, and you'll see that happen.
Given the limited resources that are available to many Muslim families today, is an independent Islamic school environment a viable option or alternative for those families where the tuitions may be very high, the staffing may be limited, resources and facilities are oftentimes measured against the public school facilities and resources that are by far superior in material ways. Is this a realistic alternative?
Well, first of all, I'm going to tell you something. This question is a big question. The answer, we don't have room for it in this program or two programs, but what I will do is tell you this. It's not easy. It's not going to be easy no matter how you look at it. But then that's part of raising your children. It's not an easy thing, but it's a rewarding thing. Now, if you or your wife will take the time to educate them at home, that's what my wife did. And we totally educated the last two daughters that I had, never attended public school. They got their total education from first grade all the way through high school. They even ordered their own high school rings. My daughter just ordered her high school ring the other day. And she's been out of high school for a while, but she's just now getting to ordering her ring. And this is a great thing for them to have a chance to learn at home. They do miss some of the things, but if you put them in the weekend school at the masjid or something, they'll catch they'll get more than, just out of the weekend school as far as their relationship with the kids. But by keeping them in the environment of the homeschool, you don't lose this beauty that they have, this innocence they have in the way that they treat you as a parent. It stays with a lot of respect because you are the parent and the teacher, which is the way it used to be, time immemorial, up until just the last few hundred years, really. People were all taught by their parents. But now, and especially in the last couple of decades, it's been like the parents all have two jobs, they're not home, the kids hardly know their parents. So it's a whole different world now. So if you would like to go back to that kind of world, it requires that. It's a sacrifice, it's hard work, but it's worth it because your children get a better education. My children tested out very high, and they understand the material. The curriculum is clear to them, and they understand about the respect still for the parents and for themselves. So that's really good, and they don't get in trouble, or they get in trouble with. They're right there with you. But that may be too hard for some people.
You've been watching another edition of Bridge to Faith. Thank you very much for joining us. We look forward to having you again next week. Until then, peace. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.